evening, everybody. How is everyone? Thank you so much for coming to our celebration of Northern Narratives and Northern Focus. I just want to say a couple things, and one of them is that we had a banner year for Northern Focus. We had over 130 photos for the first time, so thank you for all the photographers who are willing to share their work. And we definitely have about 60 people that we published in Northern Narratives this year. So thank you to all the writers who were brave enough to submit your work and be judged. There's a lot that goes into both Northern Narratives and Northern Focus, and we work on it all year. But really, none of this could happen without the support of the Friends of the Fargo Public Library, who are the nonprofit, yes, woo! Who are the nonprofit who support our library, and we're like, hey, we want to publish books, we want to put beautiful photos up at the downtown library. Can you support us in doing that? And they always say yes enthusiastically, so we're very, very grateful for that. Just a reminder for everybody that we are being live streamed right now, so maybe you've got friends or family watching at home. And you will also be able to watch it later. This is on the Fargo Library socials and on the city website as well. Also, if you are planning on taking any pictures tonight and you want to put that on your socials, we're at Fargo Library and most things. We'd love if you tagged us so that we could see your photos. Just a reminder of how tonight is going to go now. So we're going to talk a little bit about photography. And then those of you who signed up to read excerpts from your work from the book, I will call you up, and then you can read a little excerpt from your work, okay? And then if there's time at the end, any photographers who would like will pause on your photo just like this on the big screen, and if you want a picture of yourself with your giant photo, you are welcome to have that picture of yourself. We're excited to be able to offer that. Without further ado, this is the Northern Focus Photo Contest winner. It is the cover, as you saw, of Northern Narratives this year. This was sent in by Justin Rembowski, and I would like to invite him to come up here now and talk to us about his beautiful photo.
Hello, I'm Justin Rembowski. This was actually the first time I've ever submitted something like this. Thank you. So I got into photography probably like 2 years ago, something like that, as just a way to kind of, break apart from daily work, daily activities, and all that, and just kind of capture what I can. This is actually a friend of ours. His name's Randy Sullivan. He's an Air Force vet. He has a farm up in Oslo where they raise goats, cattle, chicken, ducks. They kind of do their own goat milk line and all that. But they asked me to come over and take some pictures of their ranch, their animals and all that. And he was honestly just interacting with his horses. And it kind of was like, hey, that's, really cool. Let me get a picture that kind of shows how he interacts with his animals, how his animals interact with him. So it was kind of just a cool moment to capture. And then I was going through, and I honestly can't remember how I came across the Northern Focus. I think I was just looking around in local photography things, and I saw it, and I was like, well, this kind of captures, North Dakota. So we live on a ranch as well, a little hobby ranch, and it's like this kind of captures that kind of Midwest quiet life that, we kind of try to live up here. We've got big cities like Fargo, Grand Forks, whatever, Minneapolis, but, even with those big cities, we're kind of like small town folks for the most part. And I thought that kind of captured that. So it's honestly all I have. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything. Sir? Yeah.
Just a moment, I'm going to repeat the questions.
Oh, okay.
The question was whether he was there that day as the photographer.
Yep. Yeah, they asked me to come there. Him and his wife Michelle really like how I do my editing, my colors, brightness, and then even with these, the contrast and the black and whites, they really like how I did that. So they asked me to come over and do it, and I did, and it worked out pretty well. Yep.
Sorry.
Okay.
The question was, what was the camera model that was used?
So that was actually just the Canon EOS R. So not their flagship mirrorless camera, but a really good one for beginners and whatnot. And I used that was a 50, that was a RF 50 that I used.
When did Justin know that he had that shot?
Honestly, that was probably one of maybe 50 that I had taken just in that probably span of 10 minutes. But when they started walking up to him and he started cuddling them and, petting them, that's when I figured I had a really good shot within there. And that probably the day after when I started doing the editing and I saw how she was rubbing up against him and she kind of has her eyes kind of like a little bit closed, just that comfort level that she showed, that's when I figured that was the shot. Well, thank you all for coming, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Justin. Okay, I know there are some other photographers here, including ones that got honorable mention. So, but no one else was feeling up to talking, which is totally fine. But I do want to take the moment to acknowledge them. So if we can all give a round of applause to the honorable mention winners as well. Thank you so much. Okay. Now it's the writer's turn. I know we've got some in here. Thank you for everyone who was up to reading, because it's always fun to hear your work in your own words. Just a reminder that just so everyone gets a turn, to not read more than one page of your piece. And I'm just gonna basically go in order of the sign-up sheet. So if Reba is here, you're the lucky number one. Why don't you come up? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My poem is on page 58 if you're a follow-along person, but I wrote this in a time similar to now when we're anticipating a freeze at our gardens. This poem is titled From Bed to Bed. First frost is advised. I pull out the old blankets and sheets stashed in the community garden shed. Hand-quilted triangles, now teepeed over tomatoes, draping trellises. I've put my own self to bed under these stained sheets, these deconstructed duvet covers, the pressed velvet spread of my marriage bed, and the flannel that got tugged all directions by the kids during Saturday morning library. The quilt that always had one foot sticking out now has a tomato vine peeking through, taunting the night chill. The grandma that stitched this quilt also tended a garden. May this iteration please her, that these faded squares and broken thread lines still protect and shelter.
Okay, next on the list is Gail Nelson. Is Gail here? There she is, all right.
I have a collection of poems that I write on airplanes, and I wrote this one on the way back from my cousin's funeral. She was murdered in a domestic violence. So when a tragedy happens, it does tend to kind of reorient your way of seeing the world. So this one is called Relief at 30,000 feet. These mountains look like that fourth grade classroom globe, that relief map with the real bumps. It was my favorite. I almost missed them looking at the airline steward, pushing the coffee cart, but here they are, bumpy, frosty coated mountains, and look, way down there, a speck of light, yellow and warm, surely a home with supper and bath time and story time and love. A speck of light, a drop of love, a map I want to follow.
Thank you so much. Is Stacy Olean here? Oh, there she is.
Hi, my name's Stacy O'Lean. My poem is on page 63. It's called The Woman Held My Hand. It was spring as I walked from the back parking lot alongside the old White House. A wooden fence, unseen people on the other side pounding and yelling. I looked down at the ground towards the old White House. My mother and another woman, an escort, walked beside me, my father pacing in the back parking lot. The woman held my hand. She was kind. Once inside, we sat in a small white waiting room, chairs against the walls, facing each other, and a small coffee table in the center. Paperwork. My mother was stressed. I was determined. The woman held my hand. She was kind. As I waited, I talked to a girl older than me. She was in college. I told her I was a freshman in high school, 15 years old. She was taken back. Wow, 15. At least I'm not that young, was her reply. She took her turn first. The woman held my hand. She was kind. The table was in the middle of the room with metal stirrups for my feet. The woman in the room was kind. The male doctor was not. He was rough, and he did not talk to me. The woman told me it would feel like a little vacuum inside of me. It made my insides cramp up, and it hurt. The woman held my hand. She was kind. Next, the recovery room, small and narrow with recliners lined up side by side. I woke up to the college girl crying. If it was just a few years from now, it would have been different. I was too relieved and too busy vomiting to feel sad or cry. The woman held my hand. She was kind.
Thank you so much. I have Rita next on the list. Rita Greff. Oh, there she is. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Friends of the Library for helping us out to get something published every year. I belong to a writing group I have for about 10 years. We meet every Thursday at Riverview Place. And we have a prompt we can use or we don't use, whatever. The prompt for what I wrote is my fear. So that's what I'm writing about. Mice, they can go anywhere, and they leave evidence that they have been there. They are dark and small and quick, so you think you saw a shadow, but then, oh no, it was a mouse. My first memory of a mouse in the house was way back when I was 3. Aunt Charlene found a mouse in the trap in the basement of the family home north of Gladstone. She picked up the trap and the limp mouse dangled from it. Then she chased Aunt Jeanette and me from floor to floor of the house. Jeanette dragged me firmly by the hand to save me from the horror of it all. When we lived in South Dakota, our country school had been closed for several years due to low enrollment. When I was a second grader, my parents joined other parents in cleaning the remote Burdick schoolhouse and yard because there would be 8 students that fall and prospective students for the following year. I still remember the brave young Mrs. Blossmo who chased the mice that were roasted in the classroom that day and smacked them with her broom, sending them to mouse heaven. As a high schooler, I still had not outgrown my aversion to mice. My sisters knew this and decided to pull a prank. One night after a date, I entered the dark little bedroom with wall-to-wall bunks, the light from the living room shining in. Suddenly, I saw a mouse run along the wall. Unable to control my emotions, I let out a screech, waking the whole household. Then my sisters giggled because they had tied a string around a rubber mouse and pulled it along the wall. When I taught at Prairie View Elementary in Devil's Lake, one of my third graders brought a baby mouse to school in a shoebox. She informed us that the mother had been caught in a trap, but she was rescuing this baby. Karma had punched holes in the lid of the box to give it some air. It took a great effort for me to act like an adult, but I told her to set the box back on the counter near the sink. At noon, Karma wailed, "Mrs. Graff, the mouse died." I looked toward the empty counter. "Where is it?" I gasped. "The boys were poking it, so I put it in my desk." Karma's voice was sad, so we were forced to give the mouse a burial in the soft paper towels of the wastebasket. Yikes, I hadn't dreamed of that in my nightmares. It seems like I put all my fears of life into a tiny little rodent that may be just as afraid of me as I am of it. That is manageable. I am not embarrassed about it. I am just happy that I don't have to face those quick little stinkers.
Thank you so much. It is Marcos's turn. I know Marcos is here. He's coming. All right.
Hello. My name is Marcos Garcia. I wrote a fiction piece called Growing Pains. The excerpt that I'm reading will be on page 116. It starts at the bottom and it goes a little bit into the next page. And it starts with the conversation between Megan, the main character, and her mother, Mabel, who has become a teenager. "So what is my sickness then? I feel all right. Is it cancer? No. It is some unexplained condition. It makes you get younger as you sleep, like a backwards growth spurt. Oh my God. Am I going to turn into a baby? Whoa, no, of course not. That's what the daily checkups are for. I call the kitchen and ask for pistachio ice cream. Today was supposed to be your last day. Might need another checkup today to make sure. I guess we were a day off. We should be sending you home tomorrow. Really? She has holes at the ends of her scrub sleeves that she uses for her thumbs. She lifts the sleeves over her fingers and creates small cloth fists that she places over her chin. Really, it will be like getting a second chance at life. This is the worst lie we tell them. At first, it was a hope that the symptoms would stop, letting the people affected get back to normal lives. As time went on, that idea fizzled in the wind. Like most diseases, the road to a cure is a matter of time. I believe myself lucky because my parents were old. They have time to grow younger, while others had no such luck. No cure exists, and the efforts to find one have faded away. Why would medical research put time and money in a disease that will cure itself with time? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's Anna Prishman next. Is Anna here? Oh, there she is.
Hello, everyone. Special thanks to the Friends of the Fargo Public Library and to those who kept our neighborhood branch at Northport open and still going. Yeah. I too belong to a group. We have got a leader. Her name is Bibi. She's very inspirational, very generous. She gives us a topic and we write about it. This topic was a rant against old age. No, mine is a rant against old age. She just put out that write a rant poem. So this is a rant against old age. Dylan Thomas said it best. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. A riddle of the Sphinx solved, come to fruition. The morning we do not remember. We had hoped for a longer noon. Evening enveloped us. Old age came in tiny increments, crept in on tiny feet, evolved into wings that swept us into the evening of our lives. The eyes that guided him behind the wheel of the blue VW van, from John O'Groats to Land's End, and from Calais to Casablanca, have now been dimmed in this, the evening of his life. But still he goes forth, fueled by the words of the great Welsh poet. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Thank you so much. Joanne is next on the list. Is Joanne here? There she is.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. My poem is on page 6. It's entitled Home, and it's a tribute to my grandmother. I'll probably tear up here a little bit. She meant a lot to me, and she was always baking bread. The smell of fresh bread, hot, pulled from the oven, not allowed to rest. Crusty end carved, sliced, carefully laid down. Butter gently glides across the surface, pooling, steadily blending, sinking deep within, creating a complex chorus, the true aroma of being at home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have Lisa next on the list.
Hello, my name is Lisa Falk. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Fargo Public Library. My husband died in January. My essay is called No Place. This is an excerpt. We moved our table into the red room with 7 windows and continued the fall into love. We discovered it was bottomless and warm and safe. We moved his upright piano into the red room. We put my grandmother's hope chest into the red room. In this room, we dreamed about future road trips to new places where we would camp and hike. We would look out the front windows at the little blue car that would start taking us to a myriad of doctors. That was 5 years ago. We then planned his grand adventure of hiking the Colorado Trail. 1 year later, he completed 360 miles of that trail by himself with significant symptoms of ALS. And he told me that he wanted to come home. This room has been through a lot in that 5 years. The high top has been stowed in another room and replaced with a lovely standard height table of mixed light and dark wood. He could no longer hoist or push himself into the tall chair. The piano is gone. We needed the room for books and for our glider rocking chair and footstool. The chair has plum-colored fabric and rich dark wood. It sits in the corner of our red room where a wall and windows meet. The slightly ornate, slightly marred, dark wood bookshelves became the home for possible books to read. He couldn't read what he had always enjoyed anymore: nonfiction, science, ecology, social justice, history. He was having trouble holding ideas and details from one passage of the book to another. He stopped reading for a time. Fiction was not his preference and was tricky, as it needed to be linear with just a few characters to keep track of. I would find possibilities of both, and they would go on the shelves. He did start reading again. We replaced the windows so it wasn't so drafty. We spent more and more time in this room. It is an inviting room, an intimate room with a lot of windows, a room with a view of his life outdoors, where he'd always found solace and healing. His joy in life had always been running and hiking and biking and skiing, whatever was available. Now he sat in the purple chair and watched the track teams train, the marathoners train, people running for fun, bikers alone and in pairs, families biking together, and he remembered. This room is where we grieved together. Every loss, he in the purple chair, me at the table. Hours of talking, while he still could. Hours of laughing, hours of grieving our own losses and each other's, hours of crying, sobbing, and together we moved through each impossible step. And then he couldn't sit in the purple chair in the corner of the red room with the 7 windows anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing. Andrea is next on the list. Oh, there she is.
So the poem I'll be reading is on page 31. I've written poetry since I was a little girl just for myself to process. But this one, my husband actually asked me to write a spoken word piece. He's a worship pastor and wanted a piece that would go with some of the songs he's doing. So I studied the scriptures related, and then this is what I came up with. There's got to be something greater. Staring at the lifeless lamb on the crimson-crusted altar, pleading with Yahweh to avert his wrath, the final drop of the lamb's blood tracing a familiar path, providing only momentary atonement for the sin that seduces again and again. There's got to be something greater. Dependent on priests beset with weakness, who must offer their own penitence before they can dare intercede for me, repeatedly offering the same sacrifices time after time that never really sanctify. There's got to be something greater. There, on the altar, another lamb claims to be the last lamb the world will ever need, stretched out upon 2 beams, accepting the cup of Yahweh's wrath, drinking each drop down to the last. It is finished, the final cry, one final heave, one last sigh. Is this something greater? The King of glory looking anything but glorious. All hell mocks as he descends lifelessly into the grave. Until the 3rd day. The earth shakes, see him arise, flames of fire in his eyes, his voice the roar of a waterfall. The risen Lamb of God stands tall, having defeated hell and death once for all. Yahweh's wrath finally, fully appeased, atonement complete. This is something greater, greater than the blood of goats and bulls, greater than sin, greater than death, greater access to the Father, greater hope, greater rest. Jesus Christ, God's Son, something greater has come.
Thank you so much. Reka is next on the list. Oh, I think she's in front here. Excellent.
Thank you to the Fargo Public Library and the Friends of the Fargo Public Library for hosting this event. What a wonderful opportunity for local authors to present. I would like to thank all my friends and colleagues and my husband for being here tonight and for taking the time off of your precious evening. I was reading the book, The Emperor of All Maladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee, and it talked about cancer turbid. And of course, that brought back a flood of memories for me, and this poem actually stemmed from those memories. If you would like to follow along, it is on page 54. The vibrant charade. Beautiful and bright, I remember it as radiant. Rich colors that caught my eye, the pretty scarf was full of life. I run to you, quite delighted, get distracted, and ask, why, Mama, that scarf on your head? The guys did work to fool a child, to keep the chatter just light. Curious questions on the bright piece of cloth had easy answers flow from your mouth. As you speak, I sense your torment, and then I see tears roll down. Why, Mama, do you cry? You search for words in your foggy brain. Write words you think would soften the blow. You hold me close and start to say the truth about the tumor's stay. Hidden behind that vibrant scarf, your torn-shirt head, the frightful scar. How, Mama? I gasp in shock. The lovely scarf was a charade of sorts. It took the place of your cascading hair. Bold colors hide the stark truth, just for a moment, maybe two. But clearly, the tumor had the upper hand. I am 7, grief-stricken. How, Mama, do I ease this pain? The silky scarf sways and moves, its etched patterns like ocean waves. She says to me, the hair will grow, that I could have her scarf to keep. With a sunken heart, she buoys me up. I contemplate this thought and add, please, Mama, can I keep you instead? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Timothy is next on our list. There he is.
Hello. Mine is on page 192. Theodore, son of Theodore, son of Theodore, was an archaeologist like his father before him and his father before him. I was nothing more than lucky enough to have him as a mentor. It was during my time at university when I met him in one of my classes. He wasn't a student, mind you, but came in as a guest speaker. He told us, all aspiring young historians, about the adventurous world of archaeology. I was mesmerized watching this young professional, not 2 years my senior, excitedly recount amazing stories of his time in the field. They felt like the books I read as a kid, and hearing them brought me back to that childlike world of wonder. My mind had always been set on becoming an archivist in some grand library, but after experiencing the zeal with which he talked of his craft, I'd be lying if I said my outlook on history hadn't been swayed. After the class had ended, I asked him out for drinks, hoping he could appease the questions that took flight in my mind. I was networking, as the professionals might call it. We hit it off immediately, talking until the bar closed. Not letting that stop us, we continued our conversation, walking the streets of the city until the sun crept up on the horizon. I learned a lot about him on that outing, like how instead of a formal education, he was raised in the field by his father and grandfather. As far back as he could remember, he had been doing archaeology, making his first historic discovery before he turned 12. The fossilized remains of a never-before-seen canine with wicked teeth. He named the discovery Canis tindalos, after a creature in the tales his grandfather had been telling him. Theodore also told me of the strained relationship his progenitors had with the archaeological community. Both Theodore I and Theodore II were acclaimed in their field. Nobody could deny the major advancements they made, forever cementing them as legend. However, like many academics, they had their eccentricities, namely an obsession with the manipulation of time.
Thank you very much. Jack Zaleski is next. There he is.
Also want to thank the Friends of the Library and comment on Fargo's library system, which is a jewel for this city and for this region. We use it a lot. In the way of context, I'm reading a short excerpt from a story that has two parts, Clarence and Woody. I'll be reading the Woody part, but they're meant to be read together, so it's on page 261. I urge you to buy a book and read it together. This is subtitled Autumn, 1952. Woody and I stood in an afternoon downpour, anxious because we had missed Mrs. Whitaker's ride from Israel Putnam Elementary School to our neighborhoods. Her 1947 Willis station wagon with its load of black foster kids and Woody and me, the only white child she carried, disappeared into the rain. Miss Young, the first grade teacher we loathed, had kept us after class. Disruptive boys, she said, when Woody and I complained that Carmine Palmisano stank of garlic, and we didn't want to sit next to him. She lectured us on the virtues of Italian food, which I knew all about because my mother was Italian, but I never smelled like garlic, nor did my sister, who was right across the hall in Miss Salvio's kindergarten room, and Miss Young could walk over there, smell Mary Jane, then come back and smell me, smell Woody, and then smell Carmine, and then she would know by the evidence of her own big nose that we were right about Carmine. When I said as much, Miss Young threw up her hands, warned us to be nice to our smelly classmate, and sent us on our way, sure to miss our ride in the kid-filled cargo space of Mrs. Whitaker's Willis. Emily Whitaker was uncompromising about her schedule. She had foster children to get home. She delivered bundles of the afternoon newspaper to newsboy drops in that part of town. If kids were late getting to her wagon, they were left behind. It had never happened to Woody and me, but now it had in a hard rain, and I started to cry. Woody was stoic and kind. We'll just walk, he just said. Don't cry, Jackie, it ain't that far. Holding hands, we began the trek up Osgood Avenue toward his home in the projects and mine on close by Neanda Street. The rain pelted down, punctuated by an occasional flash and rumble. Osgood Avenue rose on an easy hill, Sacred Heart Polish Cemetery, a Catholic cemetery behind a high vine-covered fence on one side, the Ukrainian and Greek Orthodox burial grounds guarded by ornate wrought iron gates and a stone wall on the other. Rainwater sloshed through the openings in the wall, running ankle deep over our sneakers. Cold, wet, and frightened by the building storm, we were halfway up the hill when my father's Plymouth pulled over near the crest. The passenger door flew open. He just finished his shift as a printer at the local newspaper and was on his way home when he saw Woody and me in the rain. Suddenly, everything was all right. We were rescued. "Get in," he said. "Jesus, you're soaked to the skin." I grabbed Woody's arm and we ran to the car. "Not him," my dad said. "Not him. He can stay right here. We'll call his parents or something." "But the rain," I said. "We should give Woody a ride. He's getting all wet and—" "No," Dad said. "He's not one of us. Get in." I climbed in beside him. He reached across me, closed the car door. "He'll be fine. I'll make a call." I knew, somehow I knew, it was wrong to leave Woody behind, but I didn't say so. Not one of us? I did not understand, but Dad must be right. He always was. We drove off. Woody dissolved into the mist. That day long ago, the image of Woody alone in the storm stayed with me. During all the years we were in school together, Woody never said a word about it. We were on the track team. We were in classes, in school clubs. At his invitation, I occasionally joined several classmates for a Sunday service at his AME Zion Church on the city's east side. At school dances, his attempts to teach me the shingling and the mashed potato failed in fits of laughter and teenage chagrin. But never a word about the day we missed Mrs. Whitaker's ride, never a word about being left alone in the rain or how he got home. Decades later, at a high school reunion, I apologized to him for my father's behavior. "No need," he said. "You're not your father." Stoic and kind still, Woody smiled, shook my hand, but gave no indication of what he was feeling, no hint. Not all those years ago on stormy Osgood Hill or at that reunion moment.
Thank you so much. I have Sean next on my list. Is Sean here? There he is.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sean Krinke. I will be reading on page 52. 52. This is called Eleanor the Brave, second grade warrior queen. So Eleanor, she battled cancer, rhabdomyosarcoma, I believe it was called, a year ago. And right now she's in remission. She just went for a checkup. So that's pretty awesome. So I figured I would read this poem tonight. Okay. Eleanor the Brave, second grade warrior queen. Her name is Eleanor, and she fights like a girl, which means she fights like a storm stirring the ocean, like fire sparking across dry grass, like the wing beats of a bird too wild to cage. She does not fight alone. Her fight is our fight. We are her shield wall, arms locked, steady as stone, faces turned toward the fray. Eleanor the Brave, who wears her battle scars like jewels fit for a queen. Her crown is the defiance in her smile, her scepter, the way she lifts others, even when her own strength falters. Doctors call it a disease. We call it a dragon, spitting fear and fire. But Eleanor, with her unyielding laugh, her fierce, unbroken spirit, she's the one who turns the tide. And when she tires, because even warriors rest, we carry her banner. Her fight is our fight, and we will not falter, not until the dragon is gone and the crown of victory rests upon her head. So, here's to Eleanor, second grade warrior queen. She doesn't just fight like a girl, she fights like a legend. And legends are forever.
Thank you so much. Okay, Stacy Anderson. Stacy? There she is.
I too would like to thank the library for offering this great experience. I did it 3 years ago to mentor for my students. I teach gifted and talented students, and I'm always telling them to write and take risks. And so I was looking it up for them and thought, oh, I could do this. So this is year 3. This poem I didn't dedicate it to my mother, but I'm going to today. I got to read early last year because she was sick and she's passed. So those of you who read, I applaud you for not crying. My husband's here and I thank him for that. She loved the lake. She loved summer. I got to live at the lake with her as a little girl. So this poem's called Summer Skies. I didn't write it really thinking of her, but now reading it, it really brings her out. Summer skies span the horizon. Cotton balls drift across the lake, reflections like popcorn balls bouncing up and down with the ripples and waves. Sunshine streams down, warming all in its sunbath. The wildflowers soaking up the blooming heat and humidity. Our winter white skin browning into glistening copper tones. And the cool spring waters slowly warming up each layer of depth. Nothing beats the healing growth and revival of the summer warmth. It's a treat to lose track of the time or day, carefree and whimsical times, floating along with no purpose, lulling to sleep in a lazy hammock, turning page after page, getting lost in a spellbinding book, chasing fanciful fireflies, lick upon lick of a sugary, sweet, dripping double-dip ice cream cone, telling creepy campfire legendy tales, staying up way too late, counting the stars, all while tracing that Big Dipper with one Star Trek eyes. All such summer splendors. Even when the summer skies darken and those powerful storm clouds roll in, magic happens in the skies. Heat lightning becomes a sky-filled summer light show, and rolling thunder, its symphony chorus, calling all to watch in awe with its power and brute strength when the wicked wind blows in. Behold the zigzag patterns flashing with flare in the night. Or perhaps become spellbound by those northern lights appearing out of nowhere, brushing their brilliant strokes of kaleidoscope colors across the summer skies. Summer is a time to renew and relax and embrace all that it can offer, both the light and the dark, as neither can exist without the other. Yes, we wait somewhat impatiently for these summer skies to finally open up and draw us all in to spend well-earned time together or simply alone under them. Sweet summer skies, take me away to a world somehow magically time stands still and the sun stays out forever with not a care in the world, bringing out the child again in all of us. Summer solstice effects seem to linger long past that magical eternal day, well into the months of June, July, and August, if only you embrace it and allow it to carry on. Thank you, Betty Ann. I love you, Mom.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. I have TJ Fear next on the list. Is TJ still here? Yeah.
Am I allowed to curse? Probably not then? Okay. Yep. Sorry, my characters have filthy mouths. But this is based on a true story. I'm TJ Fear. And thank you again, library, for allowing me to have this story in the collection. I'm trying to remember the first time I was mistaken for someone else. I think I was 12. A woman I didn't know came rushing up to me, wrapped me in her ham hock arms, and squished me between her pillowy boobs. At least she smelled nice. I'm always someone's best friend's buddy's ex-girlfriend, cousin, twice removed, soccer coach, elementary school crush, childhood neighbor, pal from Sunday school, and once I was mistaken for a pastor. Yes, a Lutheran pastor. I beep you not. Typically, I receive hugs, a handshake, and a happy face, waiting to say, hello again, how are you? So good to see you. Then there's the confusion, the letdown, me saying, no, you don't know me. The smile turns into a frown, but sometimes these incidents don't turn out so well. Like one time, some dude approached me in a bar when I had just turned 21 and thought I was his sister's bully from high school. The guy got so angry, so defiant, when I swore I didn't know him, he slapped me. I fell on my butt, my brand new jeans covered in bar floor muck, surrounded by the scrape of bar stools pulling away. Several big guys, including the bouncer, shoved him out of the place in 2 seconds flat, then gave me free drinks all night, while I pressed a bar rag filled with ice to my swollen cheek. Happy birthday to me, right? It's hard being a woman everyone knows but doesn't know.
Thank you very much. I have John Weber next on the list. John? All right.
Thank you to the Friends of the Public Library for this opportunity. I'm going to read the first page from my short story, The Burning Ordinance. And it's on page 211 if you want to follow along. It seemed like forever to Ernie Schreck that he'd been burning the grass in the spring at the old Quigley place. Forever, that is, until he figured it out one day, 43 years. He bought the place on April 15th, 1975, burned the grass the next day, and had burned every year since. Ernie did the calculations one late February day after opening a form letter in his mailbox. Burning grass on city property is prohibited forthwith, the letter said. The letter had the city letterhead at the top and was signed at the bottom by the mayor, Bonnie Nyland. Just after 9 the next morning, Ernie walked into Bonnie's bar. He waved the letter with disgust. Just what the Sam heck is this, Bonnie? Bonnie looked up from the stack of saucers and coffee cups she had cleared from the 2 tables that had been moved to make one big table by the morning coffee crowd, who, refueled and enlightened, had just dispersed to their farm shops or the grain elevator at one of the towns that's nearby that still had an elevator. It's a letter, Ernie, she said, in her usual bordering on sarcastic manner. It says no more burning grass in the city limits, okay? Everyone got one. I know better than that, Bonnie. I'm the only one who's been burning grass. All right, Ernie, but don't take it personal, okay? What it is state regulations. You should come to the city council meetings. You'd know what's going on. State regulations, if they were outside, Ernie would have spit. Since when did anyone give a dang about the latest hot air out of Bismarck? Since we got the grant to fix the sidewalks in town is when, Bonnie said. Next, as she did every day about now, Bonnie started dragging the tables back where they were at 6 o'clock when she opened. We're spending money to fix sidewalks? In this town? Ernie tried to recall where there even were sidewalks in town, other than Main Street. There could be 1 or 2, but for sure there weren't any at the Quigley place, which just as well could be in the country, as off by itself as it was, on that block past the empty place where the school used to be, and the only other house left standing was Nels Jensen's old place, and that had sat empty for the past 5 years. And I'll stop there. That's 1 page. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking for Nancy next. Is Nancy Gort? There she is.
Well, like everyone who has come up here, I'm very appreciative of this opportunity. My name is Nancy Gord. I'm affiliated with the Red River Valley Writing Project, and I'm part of an online writing group formed by members of the National Writing Project, and we call ourselves the Rebel Cartographers. My poem is on page 24. The winter of my discontent. The cars wouldn't start, which did play a part in the frustrating ways those miserable days played winter games with my heart. The basement pipes froze along with my toes, and the time soon began when not a thing ran but my nose. The bitter winds blew, snow relentlessly flew, mood relief never came, just more of the same, how my discontent grew. I wish I could say that there came a day, splendid joy and great cheer cared enough to appear. But they made no attempt, nor did misery relent in that winter of my discontent.
Thank you so much. John Anderson, I'm looking for now. There he is.
Good evening. Old Pete's final wish. Even in his casket, old Pete's fingernails were dirty. His daughter Shirley insisted that the mortician not clean him up too much. He would not look right, like himself. Not that anyone in a casket looks normal or right. Shirley felt bad enough that her dad was even in a casket at all. Old Pete, Peter Oscar Olson, had been a man of the earth, if there ever was one. After retiring from his post with the railroad 22 years before, Pete had done little else than work in his garden, a 2-acre plot he rented from the city. An old Lutheran church used to stand on the lot until it was moved into Brisbane to be on display next to old log cabins, farm equipment, and automobiles at the Frontier Museum. The first summer after the church was moved, a beautiful assortment of wildflowers sprouted up on the 2-acre plot of scrubby ground. Most of the people in town enjoyed the flowers, and for years the old church lot sat empty, except for the flowers. It was just a few years before Pete retired when his wife Margie died suddenly from a stroke. They had lived in a large 4-square house 3 miles from town for over 30 years. Margie and Pete had raised their children, Shirley, Walter, and Katie, in the old 4-square, which sat on about 6 acres. Pete's father, Oscar, had built the house in the late 1890s. The farm had been over 1,000 acres through the years, but when Pete and Margie moved into the house, most of the land had been sold off, and Pete was working for the railroad. For most of the 30-odd years that the family lived in the house, there was a garden. Even in dry years, Pete and Margie tenderly watered and pruned the garden, always producing a hefty amount of fresh vegetables, which they shared generously with friends and family. When Margie died, Pete let the garden go. The kids were moved out, and Pete was alone in the house. Shirley had moved to Colorado with some college friends. Walter lived in St. Cloud with his wife Clara and their 4 children. And Katie, the baby, had just finished grad school in Nebraska when Margie died. The kids all came back for the funeral. And to help Pete settle affairs, Margie had always done the books at home, and Pete was lost, mostly in grief. Walter was always very good at organizing. He took over most of the affairs and became Pete's power of attorney. Arrangements were made to sell the old house, and Pete moved into a small apartment in town. He had only 2 more years to work until retirement. Margie's funeral was simple. Pete remembered a discussion he and Margie had had not long before her stroke. She wanted to be cremated. Margie had no interest in lying in a box until kingdom come. She believed that ashes to ashes was one of the only truths that was certain. Pete honored her wish and had her cremated at Klein's funeral home. He bought a lovely urn and planned to bury her ashes in the cemetery where his parents rested, but he kept putting it off. When he moved into his little apartment above the pawn shop, he put Margie high up on the big ledge with the beveled glass window. The urn looked so beautiful, surrounded by the sunlight, coming through the leaded prism in the window. So there Margie sat, or settled, rather, in her urn, high on the window ledge, in old Pete's little apartment on Division Street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm looking for Charles next. All right.
Hello, it's always great to be here. Can we all please give a round of applause for the Northern narratives and all that's involved in these events every year? It is always an honor to be here. I'm going to make it real quick. I've been blessed to be here several times, and I always recommend go grab you some more books. Trust me, you're going to want those books. You're gonna find yourself at home going, I wish I'd gotten some more. So get those books if you can. If you want a book, get them, please. This is my friend Lee, and he is a writer in the making. He's a friend of mine, and I'm like, hey, Lee, you want to come to this event tonight? So he's here tonight, and I said, hey, you want to read the first page of one of my stories, which is called Dave? So he's going to read one page of Dave that's in the Northern Narratives, and my name is Charles Hinton. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'm a killer, a brutal killer. Make no mistake. Whether you agree or disagree with killing people is none of my business. Before I go any further, I feel it is important to inform you that I'm not a writer. If I were a writer, I'd most likely keep you in suspense as long as possible as I unraveled this story inch by inch. Sorry, I'm not that guy. This tale is about a guy who sees the ghosts, spirits, apparitions, haunts, spooks, pick one, of people who were murdered, and is asked by ghosts to avenge their death. Simply put, I kill killers. I see nothing wrong with killing if the right people are killed. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to tell you my name, age, race, or what state I live in. I will only tell you this. I'm an American who served 3 combat tours in which I killed more people than I can count or care to remember. These poor souls had one thing in common. They were deemed by the powers that be as an imminent threat to the United States of America. I was given orders, and I followed them. But that was a long time ago. Now I offer my services to the dead, free of charge. I could easily be your neighbor down or across the street, your doctor, your boss, an in-law, or that homeless person in the alley. I will let you wonder. I will let you decide. The names in this story have been changed to protect the innocent and myself, of course. For now, you can just call me Dave. I started seeing ghosts, as far as I can remember, when I was 6. The first was my grandpa. I saw him 3 days after his funeral.
Thank you so much. Also fostering the writers of tomorrow. Excellent. Okay. Next up, we have BB. Is BB here? Oh, there she is.
Hello, good evening. Thanks to all the Northern Narrative staff and the Fargo Public Library for putting this together and always making it such a fun event. Today I'm going to read for you Spanish lessons on page 42 if you would like to follow along. This poem came into being from my frustration with learning a language. Today, I'm sitting at the table where the sunlight filters in. I want to feel the heat through the glass doors. I am cold. Having had a few episodes of my IBS, I'm lacking energy. I'm hopeful the sun's energy will buoy my vibrancy. The bees have been buzzing in my ears for 2 days now. I don't clean them with nectar, nor do I keep the honey there. The barking dog is crying for company. I want to be alone. Nothing interests me today. I should just fall back into bed. But my Spanish lessons are calling. I have a streak to maintain. I wish it would allow me to slow down so I could grasp the language. So many new words, and I haven't learned all the old ones yet. When do I use decir? To say, and hablar, to speak or talk. I have forgotten the Spanish I learned decades ago. Is this how difficult it is to learn a language? Or is my brain muriendo? How could vino be wine, but could also translate into came? Tengo una muñeca. I have a doll, or is it I have a wrist? I want to step out on the deck to feel more of the sun's heat. But I remember a story my mother told me when she first vino. It was invierno, and the sol seemed so cálido y odoro. She stepped outside and was sorprendida by the brutal fría. When I started to learn Spanish again, I was emocionada. Or should I say excitada? Or is it agitada? Was I excited in a moved way? Or was I ablaze with excitement? Maybe it was a troubled excitement? Para ser honesta, para ser sincera, ya no estoy emocionada, excitada, agitada, but mi hija encourages me and gives me hope. And only the computer knows all my bumblings and mistakes. I am confident to speak with you only en inglés, no español.
Thank you so much. Okay, Julie is next. All right, here she comes.
Good evening. I'm Julie. My poem is called Seagulls. It's on page 79, and it's for my son Bashi. Seagulls disperse like scattered seeds in spring as my son thunders across the wet sand toward their flock. Arms reaching up toward the sky, squealing with delight, leaving footprints smaller than my hand. But do they even know he won't kill them, the shorebirds? That he can't even catch them? Is laughter a cadence every being understands? Its own language across the rift of knowing between us. Did they tire of us, the ones who can fly away? We are surrounded by life older than time, sharp-edged seashells, salt water, and leathery turtle eggs, creative expressions of calcium. Whose hand? The sand itself was once rock, continually breaking down over millions of years. When it disappears, has it reached enlightenment? We are all this little brown boy, someplace deep inside, his laughter rising and falling like the tides. Buoyed because we love to see the spectacle, to know we created it, that we could move something so apparently massive, our bodies wildly free and running without thought of anything at all, souls slamming down through bird shit and mangy shed feathers, yet never holding anything. Some small part of us knows desire isn't in grasping, only to see the pattern of beaks and feathers in an explosion of movement rising up, cresting in chaos, then landing back down someplace new, as if tethered to a pulley, as if a curtain will close somewhere and we will all be wished a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a couple more readers here. I'm looking for Monica next. Oh, yep, Monica's coming. That's good. Yeah, take your time.
Hello, I'm Monica Stitch Deltner. I wrote a poem about depression, and I wanted it to explain how it affects more than just the mood, that it's not just the stereotype where you don't want to get out of bed and that sort of thing. And I believe I hit the spot. It's called Darkness from Within, on page 76. Depression. The word itself is a misnomer. Depression affects so much more than just one's mood. It affects one's energy. It sucks it out of the body like helium, leaking from a hole in a balloon. Load the dishwasher? Brush my hair? It affects one's decision-making. Ketchup or mustard? Ketchup or mustard? Forget it. Just give it to me plain. It affects one's memory. Eggs and milk. Eggs and milk. Eggs and milk. Okay, I am at the store. It affects one's reactions. Person at the door, person asks a question. You cannot answer. You stammer. Well, what was the question? It affects how one dresses. A person gets used to wearing pajamas all day, uses drive-through because they cannot tell how you are dressed. Drive-through bank, restaurant, library, liquor. It affects how one shops. isolation, not wanting to leave the house, order online delivery, groceries, dinner, gifts. It affects one's self-esteem. The mind plays tricks, mean tricks, tells you lies, and you believe them. I am worthless. I can't do anything right. It affects one physically. Aches and pains are more prevalent. They come out of nowhere and stay. My back, head, ear, throat hurt. It affects how one thinks. Thoughts get stuck like a computer looping the same data over and over. A programming error. 20 times 7, 20 times 7, 20 times. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. We have one more person who wanted to read. Last but not least, let's have Marcy Peterson come up.
My name is Marcy Peterson. My poem is called Losing Sight, something that began 25 years ago. I've tried not to let it ruin my life or to affect the things I do. This poem was written at a rather low time in my life, so I hope you'll bear with me. Losing sight. What happened to my life? Where has it gone? Where is the laughter? Where is the song? My eyes have dimmed. I no longer see the hummingbirds, the orioles, the chickadees. The flowers I loved no longer bloom. Where is the laughter? Where is the song? The canvas is empty. The brushes are dry. No beautiful sunset, no blue sky. The palette is waiting. The paints are all gone. Where is the laughter? Where is the song? Time slips by and I go on. I wonder if I'm doing right or am I all wrong? Where is the laughter? Where is the song? I try to accept what cannot be changed. It's easier said than done. I feel so empty. I feel so alone. There's nothing ahead. The dreams are all gone. Where is the laughter? Where is the song? I wrote this many years ago. I use a visual aid to read, to write, and to paint. I brought painted cards along that I will share with anyone who would like to come up and get one. And I thank all of you for letting me be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Marcy. Thank you for all the photographers and the readers today. Thank you again to the Friends. I also want to give a shout out to the Northern Narratives, Northern Focus team. Nicole couldn't be here today, but you may have run into Lori, Melissa, Krista, or Dan. I am Andy. You maybe have spoken to me before. And if you haven't if you were published in the book and you haven't picked up your free copy yet, please do so. If you were an honorable mention photographer and haven't picked up your free booklet, please do so. Those books are $10 otherwise. The booklets are $5, and the books and booklets from previous years are even cheaper than that. So stop by the table on your way out. And before I say a final thank you, if there is any photographer, or honestly anyone else, if there's a photo that you want to have your picture taken with a huge photo in the background, come see me at the podium. Thanks again for making this an excellent evening.